Good morning, Brother Great. How are you today? Happy Wednesday. Be sure to check your Google Classroom. Your Miss Laracy, Miss Cavello, and myself have posted new assignments as of 9 a.m. Be sure to check when they're due and make sure that you hit turn in when you are complete so we can grade it. I know that's a little different from Miss Cavello's because she's using Khan Academy, which I absolutely know nothing about, and I'm sorry. Okay, if you have any questions, we are usually available from 9:30 to 12:30. Okay, if you email us or message us later in the day than that, then we're probably not right at our computer. Okay, so just keep that in mind. From 9:30 to 12:30 is the best time to reach us. But we do, like, I know I pop on kind of randomly to see if anybody needs me, but I can't say for exactly what time that'll be, okay? So today what we're going to do is I'm going to read from a different book. This is called A Pizza the Size of the Sun, and these are poems by Jack Predalewski. Jack Predalewski is like Shel Silverstein, who wrote Where the Sidewalk Ends, is very, very kid-friendly poet, very well known. This is probably his most popular book, okay? I'm going to read to you today. Someone swiped the cookies. You know what swiped means? You might know, like, swipe, you take a credit card and you can swipe it at the store. But swipe also can mean, like, take something that's not yours, kind of like a version of stealing. Someone swiped the cookies that were really meant for me. I'm sure I know who did it. She'll regret her little spree. She snuck into the pantry where she found the cookie jar. She thinks she's very clever, but she won't get very far. I'm tracking down the culprit. She should not be hard to find. She left a very messy trail of cookie crumbs behind. There she is, I've got her. She has crumbs around her lips. Oh no, she finished every one of my luscious chocolate chips. There you go. Don't swipe the cookies. They don't have any for later. All right, Wayside School. Chapter 15, an elephant in Wayside School. And one of the students yesterday said, there are no elephants at Wayside School. I forget who it was. Apparently, they were mistaken. The bell rang for recess, and the children exploded out of the building. Louis, the art teacher, was ready with a big pile of green and red balls. The kids called, "Hi, Louis!" and "Over here, Louis!" as he tossed the balls to them. Over his shoulder, behind his back, through his legs. Dee Dee came charging out of the building. Usually by the time she got to the playground, there were no good balls left. But she could see one red ball by Louis's foot. She knocked over a kid from the 10th floor and shouted, "Hey, Lou!" Suddenly she stopped. She had remembered where she had heard of Mrs. Drizzle. It was from Louis. He once told her about the meanest teacher he ever had when he was a kid. She hurried over to her friends to make sure. "Hey, Todd," she called. Todd was playing tetherball with Ron. As he turned to look at Dee Dee, the ball came around and bonked him on the head. "Do you remember when Louis told us about the meanest teacher he ever had?" asked Dee Dee. Todd shook his head. After being conked by the tetherball, he couldn't remember anything. "I remember," said Jason, who was in line to play. "Whenever Louis got in trouble, the teacher used to put the trash can on his head." "That's right," said Jenny, "and then Louis would have to keep it there for the rest of the day, and everyone would laugh at him. And then the teacher would call him on him to answer questions from the board, but he couldn't see the questions, so she'd give him an F." "Do you remember the teacher's name?" asked Dee Dee. Her friends shook their heads. Todd couldn't even remember his own name. "I think it was Mrs. Drizzle," said Dee Dee. They ran over to Louis. "Hey, Louis," said Jason. "What was the name of the mean teacher you had once had when you were a kid?" "Which one?" asked Louis. "The one that put the trash can on your head," said Jenny. Louis shuddered just thinking about her. "Mrs. Drizzle," he whispered. The kids looked at each other. "What color hair did she have?" asked Jason. "Brown," said Louis. "Why?" "We have a substitute teacher," explained Dee Dee. "She's really nice." "Good," said Louis. "Her name is Mrs. Drizzle," said Dee Dee. "Whoa, I'm getting out of here," said Louis. He started to run, but the kids grabbed him. "It's okay," said Jenny. "It can't be the same Teacher, our teacher is nice, and her hair isn't brown, said Jason. It's white. Lois relaxed a little bit. Do you want to come up and meet her? Asked Dee Dee. No way, said Lois. Oh, you're so silly, Lois said Dee Dee. She's not the same teacher, and besides, you're a teacher now, too, said Lois. Oh, yeah, I forgot, said Lois. Come on, Lois, said Dee Dee. She held his hand and led him up the stairs. They entered the classroom. Mrs. Drizzle was putting some of the children's work on the bulletin board. Mrs. Drizzle, said Dee Dee, we brought our yard teacher up to meet you. It's very nice to meet you, said Mrs. Drizzle as she pinned up Joe's arithmetic test. Exercise is so important for young minds and bodies. She turned around. Lois's face paled, meaning that all the color washed out of it. Well, it was nice to meet you, he said very quietly. I've got to go. Bye. Stay right where you are, Lois, ordered Mrs. Drizzle. He froze. Mrs. Drizzle slowly walked to her desk. She picked up the old blue notebook. The notebook, Lois whispered. Mrs. Drizzle opened it and flipped through the pages. Here we are, she said. She removed a piece of paper and handed it to Lois. Is this your homework, she asked. Lois looked at it. You were supposed to copy it over, weren't you? Asked Mrs. Drizzle. That was over 15 years ago, said Lois. I don't remember. I do, said Mrs. Drizzle. Oh, now I remember, said Lois. I was going to copy it over, but then my pencil broke, so I went to sharpen it, but the pencil sharpener fell on my foot, so I had to go to the hospital. I don't want any of your famous excuses, Lois, said Mrs. Drizzle. I just want the homework. You may share Dee Dee's desk. Lois sat next to Dee Dee. And remember, Lois, said Mrs. Drizzle, I know all of your tricks. Dee Dee watched Lois struggle with his homework. I'm sorry, Lois, she said. Don't be sorry, said Mrs. Drizzle. It's for his own good. I expect neatness, Lois, or else you'll have to do it again. He frowned. Mrs. Drizzle stood over him and watched him work. Your fingernails are filthy, she said. I'm the yard teacher, Lois tried to explain. I spent a lot of time outside in the grass and the dirt and stuff. I don't want excuses, said Mrs. Drizzle. I want clean fingernails. And while you're at it, shave off that mustache. It looks like a hairy caterpillar crawling across your face. Not my mustache, said Lois. Unless you want me to rip it off for you, said Mrs. Drizzle. Dee Dee felt terrible. I can't believe Mrs. Drizzle still remembers you after all this time, she said. An elephant never forgets, muttered Lois. I heard that, said Mrs. Drizzle. She put the trash can on Lois's head. The elephant's Mrs. Drizzle. An elephant never forgets. All right, boys and girls, make sure you log on to Google Classroom and start getting your stuff in. Check your due dates for Ms. Cavello, Miss Larissy, myself. Mr. Dixon has posted information about your career wax museum project. It's due, I believe, Friday the 17th. He's going to have you do a flip grid, which are really fun. I made one last night on the flip grids that he made, and it's kind of cool. And it was nice to see all of your faces and hear some of your voices. Okay, I will check on the caterpillars. I kind of looked at them. They don't seem to be any different than yesterday. But, hey, why not, right? Talk to you later. Bye.